Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Kathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile, the podcast where we walk or sometimes drive to the movies. And today we're driving because we can't find this bloody movie anywhere nearby.
We can't
drive to it.
We haven't actually done a podcast in the car for years, so there's a reason I'm driving here, and it's because only one person in this couple can multitask. Dave could not speak and drive.
There would be some long silences.
But yeah, we really wanted to see this movie, and we have to drive to Mahon Point Cinema to see it. Dave knows a lot about this movie, and I don't know anything except that everyone's recommended it, so I'm coming in even colder than usual.
So this bit's going to be pretty short because you don't want to know anything.
I don't even want to know who's in it. I'm like, you know what?
No, I told you something about it in our Doctor Strange thing last week, right?
Yeah, I know.
Remember?
Yeah, I know one thing, but I'm not even going to say it because what if our listeners don't know either?
Okay, yeah. I think that's the bit. Look, we all love going into a film completely cold, and this with a good recommendations. And
like
this film,
everyone is. So many of you guys, and thank you, are messaging us saying you have to go see it. You'll love it. Please go and see it. So we want to do it, of course, and that's why we are driving out to see it. And also, I mean, I guess when I get to the cinema foyer, I'll see a poster and finally see who's in it. But for now, I'm enjoying that.
You genuinely don't know who's in it, like not a single person.
I don't know anything. I've given up watching movie trailers, and it's a liberating place.
Can I tell you who made it? Is that a spoiler for you? Are you happy to know that? Right. So the film is. I don't know what's a spoiler anymore. You don't want to be spoiled. I mean, one time you gave out to me back when we reviewed the film Life for spoiling that there were astronauts in it, even though that was literally on the poster we walked past to get into the cinema.
Yeah.
So it's a film by Daniels, which is the sort of, I'll say, stage name of two directors called Daniel. They're a directing duo. They're both called Daniel.
That's awesome.
They have surnames. I don't know what they are.
That's like our friends Rob and Rob, who've got a movie podcast called The Movie Robcast.
The Movie Robcast.
But I wanted it to be called The Two Robs.
And these guys, I mean, it's a good name. These guys made Swiss Army Man.
Oh my god, I love Swiss Army Man.
I did know this. We were going to go see that a long time ago.
This was in the recesses of my brain that they made that. We tried to go and see Swiss Army Man on this podcast, failed spectacularly.
And then we watched it at home, and it was awesome.
But didn't we end up trying to go and see Swiss Army Man, but then went to see Sausage Party?
We went to see Hell or High Water instead.
Or Hell or High Water instead, yeah. Anyway, we did a podcast a long time ago trying to go and see it, but we did then watch it at home and absolutely loved it. Of course, it's a brilliant movie. So now
it's just so weird and wacky and wonderful and odd, and that if I get those adjectives for this movie, I'll be happy.
Okay, so now I'm thinking Paul Dano or Daniel Radcliffe is in this just because directors tend to reuse the same talent.
I'm saying nothing because apparently that's a spoiler to tell you who's in this movie.
Okay.
That's how cold Kathy wants to be going in.
There's not much else for us to say.
No, what are we going to say except look, the movie's doing big bucks as well. It's I can talk about that. It's A24 have released this, so there's one of the biggest independent sort of movie studios around at the moment. It is they're currently, according to American Box Office, their third highest grossing film ever, and it is on track to be the highest, beating their current two, which are Uncut Gems and Lady Bird.
That's interesting to me because I thought Uncut Gems was straight to VOD.
Well, it is apparently A24's biggest cinematic
that's really interesting.
box office. Well, it probably was in cinemas or had a re-release after all the Oscar buzz and all the golden. Didn't he win a Golden Globe for it or something?
Well, you have to release it anyway to get it in the Oscars before in cinemas. I don't know if that's the case anymore. Anyway, thank you for the box office.
There you go. There you go. So we're off to see this movie, and we'll see you guys very shortly.
Bye.
Bye.
This is when Mrs. Wang.
Mrs. Wang, are you with us?
I am paying attention.
Now, you may only see a pile of receipts, but I see a story. I can see where this story is going. It does not look good.
What's happening?
Evelyn, I'm not your husband. I'm another version of him from another universe. I'm here because we need your help.
Very busy today. No time to help you.
Across the multiverse, I've seen thousands of Evelyns. You can access all their memories, their emotions, even their skills.
Right. Wow, we're back. Okay. It just, while we strap ourselves in, safety first. If it's your first time at the Cinemile, there's no spoilers here until the car takes a right turn onto Spoiler Street, which will be clearly signalled, if not by the GPS, then by one of our voices. So no spoilers yet until Spoiler Street. Wow, that, you know when you have those moments in the cinema where you come out and you're just like stunned.
I feel like that now. I feel stunned.
Absolutely stunned.
I'm also trying to get out of this car park, which is tricky.
Well, I'll talk while you figure all this out. So that was like there's I actually don't even know how to describe
I don't know how to talk about this movie.
Firstly, this was amazing.
It was incredible.
Legitimate masterpiece.
I'm now embarrassed.
Wow.
I'm embarrassed by the review we gave Doctor Strange.
What are the odds that our 2 episodes back to back, 2 movies in the cinema at the moment, which are about multiverses, and yeah, I mean, there is no comparison. Really.
If I'd seen, like, Doctor Strange is very lucky we saw it first. Could you imagine watching this movie and then going to watch Doctor Strange? You'd leave the cinema.
Everything that Doctor Strange did in terms of, and it feels unfair to even compare them.
By the way, we're not spoiling Doctor Strange here.
We're not spoiling that, but that is, it's nominally, these things are both about multiverses. I don't think that's a spoiler for this movie. But this, whatever sort of, Doctor Strange does some interesting and inventive stuff. Weirdly, all of that is contained in this movie and more. It's an incredibly emotional and complex story that pushes like filmmaking to the next level. I've never seen. This is like that moment when The Matrix happened, and it was like, wow, we've just witnessed something that has never been done before.
Or probably for like Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon as well. You know, in terms of seeing like incredible effects on screen. I really loved how this movie looked. And what really surprised me is knowing that you told me that they're the guys who made that
Swiss Army Man,
which is a brilliant movie. This feels like a movie made by like action directors.
Yes, yeah. I want. Well, okay.
The action is so much better than almost any Marvel movie I've ever seen, where the action is so boring and set piecey and dull. Anyway, we're totally getting ahead of ourselves. We really loved it.
I cannot recommend this enough.
Yeah.
It's weird.
It's really weird.
I think it might not be for everyone. But
I was thinking it's probably for our listeners, though.
I think if you're into if I don't know if you're just into
if you have similar-ish taste to us, you'll like it.
I don't even know. There's no easy comparison point to it because there is nothing like this movie. I was like gripped and hooked by its premise. It has insanely inventive world building, while also like it does an incredible balancing act of being incredibly po-faced when it needs to be, so that you're invested in the plot and the characters, and you're genuinely invested in the emotions of all these characters, while also being insanely ridiculous, and they push it out a little bit every like 20 minutes. It gets a little bit more ridiculous, to the point where we'll talk about it in spoilers, but there are points in this movie where it is just
farce.
Outright farce, like almost a Farrelly Brothers comedy level
But
of vulgarity and absurdity, and
they
which
treat it
works.
so it really works, because Dave and I, on a separate note, and we talked about it over on our Patreon recently, but we just watched a bit of the Pentaverate, which is the new Mike Myers thing on Netflix, which is extremely crude humor that isn't funny. This movie manages to, like, fair play to them, the crude humor doesn't tip the movie over into being crude. It's just there's moments of crudeness, but you have to bring it back to, like,
but the crudeness is incredibly inventive. I've never seen like what the stuff. I can't wait to get to spoilers to talk about the images that we were given.
Yeah, but
I've never seen anything like it.
Okay, so Michelle Yeoh, like, love her. As soon as we came into the movie and it was playing, I remembered, I did know she was in this movie. I had just forgotten, because you know with movies you often read about them so far ahead of seeing them that you can just forget the details. So I did know she was in it, and I knew that she was getting a lot of praise. She's just a fantastic actress, and it makes me laugh so much that we praised Benedict Cumberbatch and said, oh, isn't it great to see him in the Multiverse of Madness, where we got to see a few iterations of Doctor Strange. Yeah, she did about 1,000 more iterations of her character than he did of his. So, like, once again, I'm completely embarrassed about our Doctor Strange.
I think it's unfair. I'd actually like to park the Doctor Strange thing now, because
I think it's very fair, because
I had a great time in that movie, and I stand by my review. But
they're multiverse movies that are in the cinema at the same time.
I know, right?
We can't compare these.
I feel bad for everyone involved in that movie.
I don't feel bad for them. They've made loads of money. They've done their job. They're tick boxing.
But this is just next level.
This is creative beyond. Like, now I do have to give to say about this movie is, presumably, I don't know about Doctor Strange, but I presume that the Doctor Strange movie is based on comics, and therefore the creators of this movie, while they wouldn't have seen the Doctor Strange movie beforehand, have certainly probably read and seen some Marvel multiverse stuff. Well, so it's not to say that this
Marvel didn't invent the idea of multiple realities or alternate, and this is
specifically multiverse, though. They would have seen Spider-Man into the multiverse, right?
Well, I guess, but I mean, like this is it's interesting because a Letterboxd review. This one, stay in this lane. Yeah, no, you're fine. You keep going. There you go. There's a Letterboxd review that went semi-viral that somebody wrote about this movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which said, literally, they said this in the review, so I'm paraphrasing, but something like, I haven't seen this movie, but it is absolutely outrageous that it could wholesale steal ideas from Marvel. This is disgusting. 1 star.
I am not.
They give the movie 1 star.
I am not suggesting this movie stole anything from Marvel.
I know you're not, but this person wrote a stupid thing on the internet.
What this movie is it's taken the idea of a multiverse, but that's not what this movie is. Like, this movie is so much more than that. This movie is like the fundamental questions of human existence. This movie is like the purpose of living. This movie is about family and love and feeling like that we all feel like there's a world that we could have lived in where we, you know, in my case, of course, I always fantasize a world where I didn't marry you. So, like, that's kind of something everyone can relate to.
You're joking, right?
I'm joking, yeah. But that idea of what I could have been if, you know, you'll often hear people saying things
the road not taken, the path not taken.
But people always have really specific examples, like, when I was a kid, I did violin lessons, but my parents didn't force me to keep them up, and, like, I think I could have been a really good violinist. You hear people saying, like, really specific things around, like, talent paths that they believe they could have taken, and I think this movie, you know, really explores that concept of, like, of your life and the path not taken very well.
I agree with.
Get to spoiler street.
I agree with everything you said. It's just boggling my mind that this movie was able to introduce an insane concept like Matrix level kind of like world building stuff, and it has a lot of analogues to the Matrix. Like there's someone at the center who's going to save everything and this kind of stuff, and they have to learn the ropes quick. It really felt like that to me. But also,
like we should get to spoiler street.
But also, it was incredibly like emotional and compelling, and all the things you said. How does one movie tackle like vast existentialism issues, existentialist issues, while also being a really, really grounded like family emotional drama?
I cried so many times in family stuff.
It's beautiful. It's
all the Doctor Strange movie is like in which universe is he less of a prick? That's like the only question.
All right.
But
we're back to your cumber bashing.
We're not here to spoil.
Let's go to spoilers then for Everything, Everywhere, All at Once. You have been warned, and please go find this film. It's at Man Point if you live in Cork. It's got to be elsewhere. It is not, unfortunately, not in every cinema all at once.
Well, it might be the case of, like in the States where it keeps getting a wider release because it's been so effective. And like we're here on a Friday night, like that cinema was pretty busy, and it was
really busy.
Great reaction from the crowd. Like
how
in
could
terms
it
of
not?
word of mouth, yeah.
Right. Let's go to spoilers. I don't know. I don't even know where to start, and I'm going to be thinking about there'll be 100 things that we'll have missed, but like things that come to mind.
I've just hit the motorway. It's spoiler motorway now.
Spoiler motorway. Sausage Fingers universe, Hot Dog Fingers universe, Two Rocks universe. The Rocks thing was just incredible. It's just beautiful. Like, just what a great way.
Was beautiful,
and I was like emotionally invested in this rock with two googly eyes falling over a cliff. Like, what an insanely stupid little moment. But that was so. I was invested.
I'm joking a bit, and I'm sorry, but I can't help the comparison. But like we did say about the multiverse, like God, they really didn't in Doctor Strange. Like they didn't explore that multiverse as much as we thought they could. But in fairness, I was like, budget constraints, etc. This feels low budget. Now I'd say there's money behind this movie, but it's certainly not. It's not blockbuster budget.
Yeah,
and they could just explore a universe by having her on. All they needed to show us is her on stage in a red dress, and we get it.
Yeah.
Her sitting in a limousine in a beautiful dress, we get it.
They did so much with so little. Yeah. So they let our imagination fill in the rest.
They've like a good costume designer and a good actress, and you can do the world, and like this is like the constant problem Marvel has is they'll throw money at set pieces that in reality just aren't needed, and this movie is just like absolute proof to me of that. And then I really want to talk about the daughter character. Oh my God,
what an actress!
What an actress!
So her name is where is it gone? Stephanie Hsu, right?
So we don't know. She's not an actress I've ever seen.
Stephanie Hsu. I am probably mispronouncing her surname, but yeah, she is sensational.
So good, but like she's a perfect example of like acting and costume, and like she has like Villanelle vibes from Killing Eve. But she's a great actress. But I just thought they were so believable as a mother and daughter.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I thought they were, and I thought like it's pretty obvious straight away that like she would be the villain because this movie is low budget and just so cleverly written. There's so few characters because you don't need that many characters. So it's like, well, it has to be the daughter really. But I just love how they connected that sense of that disconnection that a mother and daughter or a parent and child can feel.
Yeah.
And how they kind of brought that up to like a bigger purpose of like what does that mean across the universe, and every single one of you, every iteration of you is not understood by her parents and accepted for whatever is going on with her. But when they first introduce us to her and we see her in action in like the wild costume and the fighting scene,
great scene.
Creative, that scene.
She's doing. She grabs a police officer or security guard and then turns them into like a conga dancer or someone into confetti.
Yeah.
She's like
bending
inventive.
reality. Like that's the kind of thing where like that was so clever. And like honestly, at the beginning, it actually took me a while to get what was happening, and I think the movie really like is long and deservedly so because it took me a while to get there, and then there was a lot of story to tell, but I didn't immediately understand the movie, like whereas say when I watched like The Matrix I would have immediately understood this. Like this movie is a hard enough like sell.
Well, it really reminded me of that in so many ways. This character in a boring office suddenly being told by someone, given a list of instructions and then told that they are the one
I love that she
who
got
can
the
save the
instructions.
universe.
I love it. Like that scene again.
The random things you had to do
when she was in the elevator with her husband, and he just starts speaking to her in English, and we presume they normally speak in Cantonese or whatever to each other. He starts speaking to her in English. He takes the glasses off, and she's like, "What are you doing?" And he puts an umbrella up over the camera. Like that stuff was very fun. And Davis just told me who he is because I was like, I don't know who the husband is. And Dave told me he's an 80s kid reborn. And
yeah.
I loved him in this movie as well.
So he is Ke-Huy Quan. So most famous for playing Data in The Goonies and Short Round from Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom.
That's amazing. And he just never acted since? I mean, they're big roles.
Well, I read because they did a big Empire Magazine did a big sort of Goonies retrospective and got them all together for a shoot. He gave up acting but became a fight coordinator, a martial arts expert for Hollywood. So he's still been in the Hollywood ecosystem.
I love that for him though, because the 80s was not a good place to be an actor, especially for children. So like, it's so interesting that he would have moved, and obviously we need to go and do a deep dive on him after this, but like,
he was wonderful, wasn't he?
And then brings it back, and obviously there's a martial arts element to him, but that's actually not the main element. Is him as a sweet, like, I love the idea that her greatest strength in this movie, her greatest strength is that she never achieved any of her dreams, and his greatest strength was that he was compassionate, and he avoided conflict and tried to always put his kindest foot forward. And I just such a sap for that kind of messaging. I just love it.
How good was all those, like, the third act is just literally montages over montages.
Yeah,
like
really
they
fun.
layer over, but this is what I mean about juggling tone. They're layering over these you've got this grounded sort of A24 drama type with this family in a parking lot having it out, overlaid with this like beautiful, epic, sweeping looking like universe where she's a famous actor and she's rekindling with her husband.
Waymond is so hot in that
when
universe.
they dress him up, yeah. But
Honestly,
also,
like, all a man needs to do is put on a pair of glasses and a suit.
But how
and he's at a transformation where the women have to go through hours of makeup and hair.
How insane that they're cutting between these things constantly for the last half hour, 20 minutes.
But we get
while also cutting between like sausage fingers and piano
even the
playing.
sausage fingers
Raka fucking Cooney is in this movie. The stupidest and funniest thing like I've seen this year.
But
and it's in the same, and I'm like crying 1 second, and then Raccacoonie's on, and there's a man, Chad, is being thrown through the air.
I recognise that actor, and it's bugging me.
How did they do that?
But how they did it is because they're good storytellers, and they gave each one of those characters enough breathing space.
Yeah.
That towards the end of the movie, when we're jumping in and out of them,
You're invested in everything.
We're invested in everything they're doing. They cleverly use the same characters in every universe, so we get to know them in a wider perspective anyway. But like the universe for her and Jamie Lee Curtis, who I loved in this as well, are like girlfriends, and they have the like hot dog.
I was invested in them by the end. I was like, sorry, I'm shouting. I'm just so excited.
It starts off as a gag, and by the end, it's really beautiful. She's at the piano with her feet. I'm falling, crying. I'm like,
so
couldn't be
good.
happier for them as a couple.
But you're right. It's they make such
storytelling.
clever choices with having such few characters. It's both economical and epic at the same time.
Well, it's economical in two senses. Storytelling is usually best when it's economical, and then financially it makes sense from a movie perspective. But then I say storytelling economically, but then look how many themes and like ideas they covered in this, but it's keeping the characters at the core of the movie.
Yeah.
And where movies like this absolutely lose the plot of themselves, and I'm sorry, but I have to just relate back to Marvel because that's my only point of reference.
You're really beaten down on Doctor Strange now.
It's my only point of reference for multiverse movies, and I'm actually not talking about Doctor Strange.
What about Across the Spider-Verse?
My
favourite film ever made.
I just said I'm not talking about Doctor Strange here. I'm talking about the wider Marvel universe, where they just have so many characters in a movie that some of them get like 2 lines.
Yeah.
And like, I just felt so connected with these guys. Like, I've never shipped a couple so hard as her and Waymond. Honestly. And like, even the daughter and her girlfriend, I love that plot. The whole like, the parent hiding their homophobia by pretending it's to protect their parent.
Yeah.
And no, lady, just admit yourself that you are homophobic and you don't want your daughter dating other daughters, and she can't admit that to herself. Like, that stuff is so powerful. And then when the granddad at the end is obviously trying to like get the daughter as well, and then even he learns to accept the granddaughter as like the kind of so-called like evil one. Never mind all the mad. Okay, so the mad humor we've talked about is like the everything bagel, which I just think is a very funny idea. But the idea that to like leap quantum leap or whatever into your other bodies, that you have to do something that's like really silly.
Well, you have to do something. They explain it really well. It was like something that's incredibly improbable in that moment, but connects to that universe, and that's your jumping point to leap slingshot to it. I loved, by the way, that just the production design of the little data pads they had, and all the sort of it was real low tech sort of stuff
really?
in the van.
Also, like, if you lose that earpiece, you're screwed. But like, how boring she is that in her original universe, the most outrageous thing she can do is change her shoes. Just kind of made me think, God, like that's such a perfect...
What a brilliant twist and reveal in the middle as to why she is the one, why she is the most powerful person, because she is the worst version of herself. So she is every
so clever.
Whenever there's two choices and one of them is bad, she's had the bad choice in every single situation.
It's so relatable because I think most people, like, unless you're like maybe a sociopath or like a narcissist, like most people at some times or other probably do feel like the worst version of themselves. Yeah. And that's just like a really relatable thing. And then the other bit that like I love, but
but sorry, can I just say on that note, they turn that into a positive. They turn she's the worst. She's at the lowest point, but that gives her limitless potential.
Yeah, she's limitless. But that's
it's
what
a
like
beautiful idea.
I love the idea. Then you kind of jump in, and this is where I lost myself a little bit, and I need to rewatch it like properly with the pen and paper and not be driving when I'm talking about it. But you know, like that bit where it's like, okay, you jump into her body and now you've really good lung power because she's an opera singer or whatever. Yeah. And then you get to bring those powers back with you. I get all that, right? You build up your kind of like your armor, your list of skills. So then why in the middle of every fight do people have to constantly be jumping out to get more skills, jump back in again? It's like, don't you have enough skills? Like, some of those people from the Alphaverse, it's kind of implied they've been doing this shit for years. Like, why does the guy have to jump and stick that thing up his arse in the middle of the fight?
Because their earpieces got knocked out and they lost their connection to the last universe. That's to remember, because there was a moment where they were just slapping each other because they lost their
See, that's
powers.
the bit I didn't get right. So Waymond, when the Alpha Waymond like died he died in his own world,
yeah,
and then we didn't see him anymore in our world.
Yeah.
But then when the people in our world appeared to die, then they almost came back up again like lifeless corpses. People were still able to jump into them. I was just getting a bit confused by the mechanics.
I don't know what
people were just jumping in and out of bodies all the time, and I wasn't quite sure how or why. But I guess I just need to park that because it doesn't matter.
I mean, I'm going to watch this movie so many more times. I'm obsessed. I need to pore over it. But like, I just cannot. I still can't believe that this movie contained a scene where a man leaped over two other people with his pants off with a blurred out dong to land deliberately on top of a phallic object up his arse. And it was for the purpose of gaining martial arts skills. And then there was a fight with two, and then she removes their butt plugs in the fight. And yet I can take all of this completely seriously.
That's because they've incrementally, it's like with the characters, they've incrementally built up. Like the first we hear of it is the shoe thing. We didn't think of because it was so innocuous. The shoe thing was like whatever. When they're like to Waymond, you need to give yourself 4 paper cuts. When we see Jamie Lee Curtis like put a compass in her head, we start realizing what's going on. Then they explain it, and then they get more and more farcical because I guess the more and more you have to reach. Yeah,
we're ready for it at that point. And then Raccacoonie happens.
And they built up to it really well. And the Raccacoonie thing was so funny because basically she had mislabeled Ratatouille, which was in itself a good joke that she couldn't get that right. And then they went off and did that, and I thought, oh my god, did they have to get permission from Pixar? Like,
I don't know.
I don't know how that works.
I don't know.
But that is so fucking funny, and the humour in this movie is just like, God, I got so many laughs out of it.
The other movie, which is weird, because we're saying how close it is in sort of concept to the Doctor Strange movie in the cinema right now, but another movie that just came out is Turning Red, which is also about a Chinese immigrant mother and daughter trying to reconnect.
Yeah.
Like, that's the core arc of that movie, which I think it's like, it is amazing that we live in an age where we're getting sort of a more diversity of cultures and storytelling on screen, and just like, it's this just.
There's just I can't like to top it all off. Like movie. To think about our character is like this actually hadn't even occurred to me, and this shows how far we've come. It's only now just occurred to me that, oh wow, our protagonist and our villain are both female. That's something I used to obsessively note. And the more it's normalised and the more it's not an issue, like this, at no point in this movie is it like, yeah, we get a female protagonist. You know what I mean? It's just, She just is, and it's like,
unlike, to come back to Disney and Marvel, when they like to have their moment and like in those movies and show you like
with Captain Marvel and stuff. Yeah,
I'm
it's
just a girl.
I could talk about this movie all night, but we're nearly home, and I've actually forgotten so many of the specifics because it was so wild. Like, you need a pen and paper.
I just loved. I really was a fan of the third act. It really, like, because I was like, how are they going to pull all this together?
I love how they did it into 3 segments as well, and the first one ended, and then she was at the cinema watching her own movie. And then it said Alexander Wang produced it, but then it didn't say he produced the actual movie. I was like, what's happening?
Well, it's another universe, I guess.
I thought maybe
it's a very fashionable
he'd
universe.
done some of her dresses, and I just love that in every universe, because I'm a sucker for a love story. I love that in every universe she had Waymond, and then...
Yeah.
The daughter obviously didn't exist in that universe, right? The universe where she's a superstar. She almost appeared to be playing herself in a little bit in that universe, which I enjoyed. So the daughter couldn't leap into that universe. What I don't get at the end is when the daughter... This is the bit I couldn't understand, and I know I just said we need to wrap up, but when the daughter... She did jump into the bagel world, right? The kind of bad daughter.
Yeah.
So then... Is she gone, the baddie, and then her other daughter's just back to herself again? That's the bit I couldn't understand.
Oh, in the end.
Is that daughter conscious of everything that happened?
Oh, good question. I don't know.
I think she is, because I think your one said, I am her, I'm all of them.
Yeah, I'm all of them.
And I think it's them both making, and this is what I find really profound, to make the conscious decision to live in your own life and not be fantasizing, and the road less taken, and abandoning your family when there's financial issues and things aren't going well, and all the things people do, to just be like, no, I am going to stay here and I'm going to work it out.
I think the implication is it's both of them, and they still have access to all these worlds, but yeah, like you said,
But then it kind of made me think, God, I'd probably leap into the movie star world sometimes, like. And also what I find interesting is that Waymond's so clever, because you know the way he hid the divorce papers and he said, you only ever pay attention to me in an emergency. He's so emotionally attuned to her. He's right. She only now has realised she loved him because she saw him in like 8 different universes. And she only understood how great he is because she met Hot Waymond in the movie star universe, who she'd never married, so she couldn't have him. And he made her value her own Waymond when he was like telling her how he works against stress, and how he was like, you know, I would have been happy just doing taxes and laundry with you, and that made her love her own one. But
I love that line.
But she wouldn't have loved her own. She was kind of over her own husband. She did need the wool pulled out from under her. So,
but it's like you were saying. It's like that's because she was just lost in the what if of her own life, the road not taken. But the that whole the way they had those moments where they would group a character together, like all the Waymonds at once talking together, is so beautiful. And I love this idea that, you know, really the villain in this movie is it's existential bleakness, right? It's the daughter says nothing matters, you know, I've looked everywhere, nothing matters. And I personally have felt myself sometimes, like, I'm not religious, I'm not you know, staring into the void. Sometimes you feel yourself at risk of slipping into the dark hole of the bagel. Like, what's the point of anything if nothing means anything? And I love the idea this movie is saying, you know, the thing that anchors you and pulls you back, which is visually brought together beautifully when the grandfather comes in behind her,
the grandfather being doctor,
the dad comes in behind her, and everyone, they're pulling her together. It's, you know, it's family and the people you love that anchor us and ground us in our own reality and any reality. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a very beautiful movie, very beautiful message.
Amazing.
We're just putting in.
Stop. Sorry.
I'm not going to crash into a car here. I'm doing a great parking job.
Oh God.
So
I'm not going to criticize your driving on the podcast, but that was touch and go.
It wasn't. Thank you everyone for listening. Let us know what you thought of this movie.
Yes,
we absolutely loved it. Clearly, I think I'll be thinking about it for a long time. Please get in touch on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, or thecinema@gmail.com, because we'd love to hear from you. And head over to our Patreon if you want to hear us talking about loads of TV. Like I just mentioned the Pentaveret, but we're talking about The Staircase. We were talking about
Moon Knight.
We talked about so many shows.
Roar.
We talked about
Pachinko.
Yeah, a load of Apple TV stuff.
Yeah, a lot of stuff on there. That's patreon.com/The Cinema. And our new vote's gone up because we just moved house. So our new retro movie is Moving House.
Moving House, and some of our
6
options.
Moving House themes.
House Sitter is looking good. Beetlejuice, The Money Pit. They're the kind of retro movies going around at the moment about Moving House on our poll. So head over to Patreon and join in the fun. And thanks for listening.
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
Every rejection, every disappointment has led you here. To this moment. Don't let anything distract you from it.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
I'm Jessie Cruikshank, and I've always been told I have a face for podcasting. So I launched a podcast. It's called Phone a Friend because each week I'll break down the biggest stories in pop culture. But when I have questions, I get to phone a friend. I'll phone a royal watcher to find out why Prince Harry is acting like a real housewife. I'll phone a tween to please explain Euphoria. And maybe I'll even phone a Backstreet Boy to find out if I still have a chance. I don't? Okay. New episodes drop every Thursday wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.